now to this Racing Victoria announcement this morning of $25 million to prevent cruelty to retired racehorses. I'm joined by Liz Walker. She's the CEO of the Victorian RSPCA. Liz Walker, welcome. So we'll get to the specifics of this plan in a moment, but how do you feel about the fact that organisations and governments are responding with initiatives in the wake of this report on the 7:30 program?
Well, I think it's fair to say that we're really pleased. It's there are some really significant animal welfare issues in racing, and I think the focus on it now is really welcomed.
Okay, so now to the elements of this. First, an equine welfare task force. How do you understand this is going to work? How many people are going to be involved in this? How much funding is going to go towards it?
Well, look, honestly, what we know at the moment is what's written in the newspaper. Yeah. I think when it comes to the actual task force, what we would hope is that it wouldn't just be in-house, that it would be independent and would have representatives from across the board on it. So whatever it looks like, I think it's really important that it does have independence and that it's actually resourced really well so that there can be a difference made to animal welfare.
And what about its functions?
Well, I guess the thing is that, when we look at what Racing Victoria have promoted, we think it's a good start, but it simply doesn't go far enough. It tends to be focused towards the end of life of racehorses, and we would say that really you have to go right back to the beginning, and we really do need to have that birth to death reporting and recording, as well as injury statistics. But at the end of the day, I think what's important for the industry and the community is to understand how many horses are coming into the industry, what's happening to them while they're racing, and what happens to them post-retirement, and to make sure that those horses have the best possible opportunity to have the best life. And that would include looking at how many horses we actually need to fill the race card and to optimise the number of horses that are getting to the racetrack, so that at the end of the day, whatever horses move into retirement, there's fewer, which would therefore have, you would imagine, more opportunities to overall reduce the euthanasia rates and so the wastage overall.
Is it clear that there are too many thoroughbreds being bred in Australia at the moment?
Well, I think that's certainly what we believe. The problem is that there is no data. So first and foremost, we need birth to death reporting from racing industry, and we should also include injury stats in that reporting as well.
Yeah. There's also talk in this announcement today of a rehoming program. What would you hope that would look like?
I think that's, rehoming of horses is obviously really, really key. It does assume that that there's enough places for these horses to go, and honestly we just don't know how many there are. But it's also fair to say that rehoming a horse is not for the faint-hearted. You need property, you need assets and time, and certainly a lot of money. And so again, it comes down to what can we do to minimise the number of horses that need to be rehomed. And we certainly need to not only support rehomers, but actually get some real dollars and some investment into that rehabilitation of horses so they can make that transition.
Realistically, how many horses do you think can be rehomed per year and rehomed properly per year?
Well, I guess that's for the industry to sort out and actually report on. But what I can say is that the expectation is that they should all be rehomed. And I think that there's evidence in other industries, such as the greyhound industry in Victoria, where the number of rehoming of dogs has actually improved incredibly over the last 3 years. And that's been due to an investment in animal welfare and a really strong focus. And so now's the time for the racing industry to look at some of those examples and invest really heavily.
There's also something today, though, being mentioned in coverage of this, that the Racing Authority will provide for registered vets to humanely euthanise horses on Victorian farms before they're disposed of, in a bid to stop owners sending live horses to meat sales. That was as reported in the Herald Sun this morning. What do you make of that then? It seems that the racing industry is accepting there that there are not going to be, it's going to be difficult for provision to provide rehoming for every horse, and some will just inevitably have to put down. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that that probably is a reality, and euthanasia of animals does happen, and certainly doing that in a way that is as humane as possible is certainly what is everyone's goal and certainly community expectation.
So the RSPCA would accept that some just have to be put down because homes can't be found for them?
I'm not sure that we'd actually accept because homes can't be found. I think that the reason that animals should be euthanased would be for severe behavioural problems or physical illness. That would be the starting point. This initiative is around reducing pain and suffering and fear, and I think it may be something that has to be looked at in the short term while the numbers get under control. But honestly, until we have that birth to death reporting, so we really understand the number of horses that are going through and what their outcomes are, we really can't be sure, which is why although the initiatives are excellent, they actually need, there's a whole lot more work that needs to be done right up at the front end.
Okay, and this is the start of the biggest week in racing for Australia this year. And so what's the RSPCA's position on people attending the events over the coming week or so?
Look, that is entirely up to people as to do what they would like to do. What we would say is that there are 5 things that we're really interested at the moment, which we'd like people to focus on, and in particular the industry to focus on, and that is that mandatory reporting of birth to death certificates, mandatory reporting of injury. We desperately need that national registry of horses. We need investment in real dollars investment in the retirement of racehorses and helping them to transition. And ultimately, I think for the horse industry, an independent regulator would be ideal.
Okay, Liz Walker, thanks so much for talking to us this morning from Melbourne.
Thanks for the opportunity.